Today on Visionary Ventures, we're diving into the world of crypto security with George Haddad, co-founder of VaultKi. From banking in Canada to pioneering digital asset protection in Lebanon, George has a unique tale to tell. Tune in as we unpack his journey and the innovative spirit behind VaultKi. First of all, thanks so much, George, for being here, and it's a pleasure to host you and to know more about you and your journey and your business.
Thank you, Carl. It's a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So, George, before jumping, like getting into the mental work and all these aspects that occurs in any entrepreneur's journey, can you take me back a bit to the stage where you were jumping from the corporate ladder to the startup world? That was a huge step. What's your secret to staying sharp and handling the pressure?
It's a nice question. Actually, I think it was always kind of a mindset I had. Throughout my career, I jumped quite a few, if you want, roles from private banking to corporate credit to family offices, then investment management. So always trying to find like my better fit in the investment and finance world. And, it's always like throughout this journey, you develop kind of skills to just readapt to a new environment, to a new setup with new people who think differently. Sometimes, even if it's in the same finance investment world, it's different roles, different perspective to the same world. So you develop kind of skills that way, which I pretty much enjoyed. Then you get to a point where you just start thinking that what if I started something for myself? And you just like feel a little bit more ready. You never feel ready enough, and but you just feel it that it's time, and you just take a jump. And this is where basically just accepting the uncertainty and being ready to adapt whenever needed, you know, comes in handy.
Yeah, for sure. And I know for a fact that pressure changes from being employed and being inside the corporate world to handling your own business and venturing into a startup. So,
Right.
did you feel that difference in the pressure?
100%. It's a very different kind of pressure. Like, I mean, pressure in a good way, right? The word pressure has a negative connotation usually, but here I take it more like in a positive way. It's more like, drive.
Without
And
pressure, diamonds wouldn't be formed. So
exactly,
I believe pressure is a good thing after all. It
exactly.
pushes you forward or backwards, you decide.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, nicely said. Yeah, absolutely. You're right. So in the corporate world, the pressure is always, there are certain rules of the game, if I may say, right? Like there are certain a role, certain duties, a mission and a vision that was, given to you to adapt to and to work towards for the purpose and the mission of the
Of the collective,
enterprise, of the
of the
collective.
whole enterprise. Yeah.
Exactly. So this is where, being, a high performer, a good teammate, thinking about that kind of mission and vision and trying to abide by it and own what you do, even within the enterprise, within the company, is quite important, and always trying to perform at your best. Now, whenever you shift to the entrepreneurial world, it's pretty different because this is where you have to put the mission, you have to put the vision, and you have to self motivate yourself. Because if you stop doing anything, something, nobody's going to tell you anything, right? It's not like there will be someone telling you you're accountable. You should have done this or that, and
But
you're slowing down the whole team.
self accountability is harsher.
It is,
At least
it
for
is.
me.
Exactly. And it depends also on everyone, every single person, because like, what are the goals? Are you too hard on yourself? Are you too easy on yourself? It could be a walk in the park if you're too easy on yourself. And it could be much harder if you put the bar too high, and it could be also
Exactly.
like demotivating. So it's finding that right balance between uh, pushing hard enough, putting the bar high enough, but also in a way not to be demotivated. So it's a work on yourself, definitely.
For sure. And you mentioned being high performer. Do you consider
Mm.
yourself as a high performer?
I hope I am. I think that throughout my career I did did some quite good results, and I think high performance is something that we always strive or push towards. It's not something
Mhm.
that is a constant. Sometimes you're going to be performing at a very high level, sometimes a little bit less, but like having like a kind of athlete mindset, where you have to have a certain discipline, keep your eye on the ball, and always pushing forward. And very importantly, the moment you find that there are certain drawbacks, certain things that push you back, not to actually stop. Just one day, tomorrow is another day, you start again and you push again. So it's like high performance, I would say, is like an average. Like take a full year, let's say, just to picture it. It's not going to be every day a super top performance. But if you look at the full year and you have like a solid performance, a high performance without much volatility, I think you've quite made it there.
I really like the example that you gave of the athlete, and I truly believe that a founder, a co-founder, or a high performer in business is like an athlete where
Mhm.
you go and you prepare and you train hard enough back in the backstage,
Mhm.
and then you have some races and you have some
Right.
championships and you have different stages, different titles to get, and this is where you go in the market and you fight some battles, you acquire new clients, you sell I don't know what. So the business goals are a bit similar, I can say, and I really liked this example. Thank you for giving it away. And talking about these situations, have you ever had those "what am I doing" moments?
Yes, of course. Like there are like in life in general, you have a lot of ups and downs. Sometimes you feel like everything's working out fine. You feel like you're on a momentum, everything's going well, and then sometimes you feel like, what am I doing? Everything's going wrong suddenly. Everything that you thought would happen are not materializing in
And how do
certain
you
ways.
push through doubt and stay driven? Like,
You know, yeah.
what am I doing is a doubtful statement towards yourself as an entrepreneur, as a co-founder.
Mhm.
And you're in a mental state where you're doubting yourself. And how do you push through that and stay driven and focused?
It's we all go through like kind of moments of weaknesses, but being aware that those are just moments of weaknesses, letting the time pass and heal. You realize that it doesn't last too long, right? Because you're motivated by your mission. You're motivated by what you're trying to achieve, the bigger picture. It's not like if someone starts with the mindset that I just want to do something, start my company just to become rich, or make money. I think that profit is not the right motivation. So the moment you have a motivation that goes beyond that, this is where the healing process is quite fast, and it's a normal cycle, right? But like we say in finance, it's higher highs and higher lows, right?
Yeah.
Meaning that it's an upward trend. You will have lows, but it's always higher. So yeah, keeping that in mind, keeping also in mind that there will be times where things are gonna be going wrong, right? keeping in mind that the name of the game is 2 steps forward, 1 step backwards. You know, you net them out, you're still moving forward. But if you focus on what the step backwards, it's going to be quite demotivating. So yeah, so having that mindset is pretty helps a lot. Like it's everything about, related to the perception. How do you perceive your situation?
Nicely said. Thank you for that, George. And talking about mentioning actually your mission,
Mhm.
tell me a bit more about that before we hop into something else.
Yeah. So after a while, like after a pretty decent career in the investment world, in the banking world, etc. You develop certain skills, and then you feel that you could put them, at work in the service of, a certain mission. You realize certain things that not necessarily everyone have realized yet. They would eventually, but they're not in the field, so it's just a matter of time before they do. And playing a role in actually, pushing this forward is important. So actually, stars aligned in a way, right? Like at some point, the technology of the blockchain technology became more mainstream, more known, and this is where like I got into it like 5-6 years ago. And then came 2019, the economic, financial, and monetary collapse in Lebanon. Then came in COVID, which showed a lot about what are the priorities in life, right? And combine all these together, and you find that why not put your gonna call it a
Your
calling.
financial expertise in the
Exactly.
corporate world. And so basically, you combined your financial expertise in the financial world and in the corporate world to the new age of finance. And this is why you wanted to build something on Web3. And you were driven about security, right?
Exactly. So having an impact and trying to promote financial freedom, and everything aligns as well with the Lebanese story, which is the important part as well for me. Like when you talk about the mission, it's very much related to your roots as well. And in that sense, I try to combine, if you want, this attachment to Lebanon with my purpose at VaultKi, right? And VaultKi is all about security, as you just said, securing your access to your crypto wallet. So basically, empowering people to just own and control their assets safely. Because blockchain is mainly about decentralization, and decentralization, as you know, is something that we are not very familiar with yet, because of the world we're living in it, which is very much centralized, right? So every time anyone wants to make a financial transaction, to talk specifically in the financial world, we need to go through a central authority, central, place, which is financial institutions, which is banks, which is always an intermediary. And those intermediaries sometimes fail us. And we had, unfortunately, the experience here in Lebanon. So with such a technology, with the blockchain, you just realize that why not own my own access to my own wallet, to my assets, in a secure way. And this is what VaultKi allows you to do, to safeguard your key to your wallet in a very secure way for the long haul.
Don't give too much information, George. As much as I really love VaultKi and your mission, we're going to get back to more details about that in few. Let me just move a bit towards George, the entrepreneur, and go back to some physical health and focus on that area. So, running a startup is no small feat, and I really want to know, how do you keep your energy up, and any go-to wellness tips?
Mm-hmm. So yeah, definitely. Like I believe that in the entrepreneurial world, anywhere as well, but like specifically there, it's very much about managing your energy level, right? Like we focus a lot about managing time. Time, I think, a good management of time is a byproduct of a good management of energy.
I love
So
it.
sleeping is very important, and waking up early is as important. And this is something that I try to do every day. Like 6 a.m., I'm up, and starting a little bit earlier, quiet, having had enough sleep, on average 7 hours a night. So starting with that, then eating well. I wasn't always very disciplined when it came to what I was consuming or eating. So with time, I was able to adapt, and I found eventually what was my right balance or the right formula for me. Like one of the things is, for example, dropping processed sugar. Like this is one of the
Mhm.
things that I don't do much anymore. Uh,
Any fitness rituals or sport that's non-negotiable for you?
so that's the thing. That's the trickier part, and this is where probably I should do a little bit more efforts. I do a lot of stretching, especially in the morning, just to get physically better and ready to start my day. But I would say that during my while I was developing VaultKi, especially as a new entrepreneur, you go through a lot of messy periods, meaning that sometimes you feel that you're overwhelmed, you have too much to do, too much to learn at the same time, so you don't feel you have much time in a day. So you skip sometimes your trainings, right? So I started more like religiously, if I may say, to do my trainings on a daily basis. Then you stop for a little while because you just need to have some deliverables out. Then you start again. But definitely, like now I'm back, I would say, to having a more organized fitness routine.
So yeah, I wanted to see like that's something that is actually occurring to me and it's happening to me sometimes, and mostly it's because of our businesses. So when you think that at work or in your venture you have a certain problem and the world is collapsing outside, you tend to just focus on it and give your all to resolve any urgent matter or any business matter, while we tend to neglect ourselves, our bodies, our life, whatever it might be.
Absolutely.
So how do you work on that? How do you conquer these things when they happen?
Sometimes I just, after having pushed quite a bit, and although I would say like burnout is the lack of uh, alternation, if I may say, between tasks, right? Like as long as you alternate between tasks and between mindsets, you're still you still like you're still quite fresh, if I may say. Fresh is not the best word, but I mean you're still fine. But sometimes you just have to push in a certain direction, and it just gets to you. And you know what? I just take a step back. I just take some time just to stop, take a step back, take a breath, and then start again. Like I've done quite a few times, not too many times, like taking like 2 3 days completely off, not doing anything, and then starting again completely fresh with a new
While the world is collapsing outside?
excuse me.
While the world was collapsing outside?
While the world was collapsing outside. You mean
You
which period right now? Like
Yeah, like you have some work problems,
oh
I don't
yes,
know
yes,
what's
yes.
happening, and then you reached your capacity and you said, okay,
Yeah, yeah,
fuck
no,
it, I'm
absolutely.
logging off.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, like when you if you push a little bit further, it's gonna be like a full collapse, and you can't rely on someone else to pick up the stuff and continue while you know uh, you, you have to just own the fact that at some point you're gonna have to drop some balls, and try to heal, try to take some time, and then start again. It's I like to look at it like a boxing match, right? Like if someone
Okay.
is in the ring thinking that eventually they could avoid any hit and score every single time you make a move, then I think that you're in the wrong sport. You will get hit as long as you're not on the floor and you don't give up. Eventually, you stand up again. Although it's like a very mainstream or cheesy way to put it, but like you're still in business. You're still in business. Just like discount the fact that at some point in time you will get some, you will get hit.
Some knockouts.
Some knockouts. Knockouts is a big word. Knockouts is like a full,
Why not? It can happen. Mentioning these analogies, I
yeah.
really like that everything is around sports. But yeah, in boxing and in sports, you will lose some matches, you will lose
Mhm.
some championships, and you will lose some titles. So that doesn't mean that you're gonna stop right there, and you know that you're gonna go back in, prepare, and aim for the next fight. So
Exactly.
it's really fine to
Hmm.
lose sometimes.
Absolutely.
And thank you for that reminder, George. Uh, you gave us a lot of sports analogies. What is your daily routine other than stretching?
So when it comes to fitness, I used to be doing a lot of, you know, what you call Swedish exercises, like more like at
Oh,
home.
okay.
Sorry.
Body weight, calisthenics, all these stuff.
Exactly. TRX, for example, just to stay.
Hmm.
It's close. You can use it at home. It helps you to move and do all the exercises you want while being in the comfort of your home, not wasting too much time commuting, for
This
example.
started in COVID period, right?
It did start
Everyone
in
went
COVID.
into home training, and the best way to find yeah, we all went there. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Are you still doing them?
I still do. I still do. As I told you, like I had some periods where I stopped when felt like I couldn't actually let go of or delay the urgent work that I had to do. So I would rather like wake up, prepare my cup of coffee, and just start working just to feel a little bit less anxious about the fact that I have a deadline and I have to do it right now, to finish it right now. So, you skip. And then when you lose your routine, this is where actually, you know, you
It
have to
hits.
just, yeah, you have to just actually you know,
Reiterate your journey, refocus, and say to
exactly.
yourself that
Yeah. Yeah.
we have to move it. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
I can
Like,
really relate to that because
yeah.
I also have disc herniated disc, so I cannot train as much as I used to.
Mm.
But yeah, I have to adapt all my lifestyle and stay active because the pain will be a great reminder.
Yeah. I bet. Yeah.
George, moving a bit from the physical to some sort of spiritual journey,
Mm.
but not in terms of spirituality, the mainstream spirituality. What I'm really intrigued about is how do your core beliefs guide you and your decisions at VaultKi?
Right. So, like we said earlier, it starts with the need for a deeper purpose. And I found, that with Voltki. To go back to the financial crisis and what we went through here, providing people with a reminder or with an alternative to centralization. Trust has been lost. Being able to trust a different system that is basically what we call trustless. You don't have to trust one person. You just trust a system that does not have one, point of failure. Uh, you know, was matching pretty well my sense of deeper purpose. So I was able to pick up this technology. You know, make the analogy or make the connection with the actual world, the financial world, and propose a solution that fits that deeper purpose, right? Like being able to provide to others a solution that gives them an alternative to a system that in which they lost trust, right? And to take it to another level, and and going back to what I said earlier about profit is just also a byproduct. Like I think when you do things right from a mission perspective, and obviously like the other elements are also aligned, the profit comes afterwards. But in the meantime, for example, like VaultKi is one of those products that do not have a brand, on the product itself. Like you have the box, obviously it comes with the product, etc. But once you remove the VaultKi product and you put your seed phrase on it, which is the private key, the unique key to your wallet that nobody has except you, and you hide it, this product does not have the brand VaultKi. Although like it would be pretty good for the brand itself to just be out there all the time to remind people of the brand. But at the same time, it's an additional level of risk, because if anybody finds that piece of product, which is the VaultKi product on which you have your key, but don't know or doesn't know what its usage is or utility is, they could go on the net and look it up, right? But if you don't know what it is, there is nothing that could point in any direction. You just see letters on the product, right? So putting the brand next to the ultimate purpose, which is safety and security, is translated also in the product.
So I like that you're combining all these elements and aspects, and you're matching your beliefs and your core values with the product, and with the care that you're putting out the security and the necessity and the utility of the product and the person behind it, the user, the end user, before yourself and your brand and your venture, your brand. So we're gonna also get back to this in a few to know more about VaultKi and its utility. But thank you for linking it in this way. I want to understand a bit more about your journey. So you worked all your life almost in Lebanon. Then you went and you traveled to Canada.
Canada.
Then after Canada, you went back to Lebanon, and this is where we started your entrepreneurial journey.
That's
So
right.
returning to Lebanon changed your perspective on life or business in any spiritual way?
You know what? I think that it's the decision. There was a change before that to take the decision to come back, right? Because like coming back at that point, I was already in Canada, 8 years spent there, pretty well established. There was no reason for me to come back from a typical journey perspective, right? It's not like, you just need to move to somewhere else for other opportunities. It was going pretty well there. Everything was the stars were aligned there, if I may say.
And you had a really nice job.
It was pretty good. I can't complain, actually. And
So you were a vice president in a financial
yes,
company, right?
exactly, and in asset management, they're like the largest institutional asset management company in Canada.
And you were handling billions of dollars and had an exciting venture and position. You left all of that and you went back to Lebanon. Tell me more
Exactly.
about it.
Exactly. Because you know what, at some point, especially, I told you, like the period of COVID, the collapse, COVID, etc., make you think a lot about, what is, your, what is the most important thing in your life. Definitely, productivity, work is high up there on the ladder. But then you have also your roots. You have also your identity. You have also your family, which is very important, I think, your friends, your environment. And also this feeling that, you can give more, maybe somewhere else, in a place that needs, certain, dynamic. And, coming back here was, like it transitioned in that aspect. I was able to be closer to family. I was able to just, use or transfer everything, all the skills, the experience that I gathered abroad in my venture, and eventually, build something that was always on my mind, which is, a, a an entity that would be driven by a mission that is mainly or only put by yourself. So a lot of people tell me it's pretty courageous of you to come back, and
It is.
you know what? And my answer is, it's not lack of modesty or something. It's just like truth. It's a perception. I'm going to give you an example that which I like. People who live in Lebanon do not perceive the risk of the situation right now the same as someone living abroad, right? People who live abroad might think twice before visiting in today's situation, but people living here are not in much worry, right? Of course, they know what's happening. They're aware that there is, of what's happening, but they're not as concerned as those living abroad. So there is the situation, and there is the perception of that situation. So I think that the perception of the situation, or my perception of coming back, was a bit different from the perception of others, who have different circumstances, different, priorities, different everything, right? So it was like say in French, an aboutissement. How do you say in English? Something that was meant
It,
eventually to happen, right?
yeah, it's meant to be. It's a result of
Exactly.
different, like a chain reaction.
Exactly. So this is why, taking the decision was not easy. I left something of value there, right?
Would you have
But at the same
considered
time,
to found VaultKi in Canada instead of Lebanon? Have you ever considered it?
not really, because
Why?
the ultimate purpose was not, or not the ultimate purpose. The only purpose was not Vaultkey. It was also,
It was to leave Canada?
it was actually, I'm very grateful for Canada. Canada
Okay.
is I consider it my second home. It's I'm Canadian. I had an amazing experience there. I like to think that I have a foot in Lebanon, a foot in Canada. So it's not like Canada that there was something wrong with Canada. It was where do I fit best?
It was George that was feeling
Exactly.
misplaced or unrooted.
Kind of.
That's
You feel that, family, friends, your environment is more here than there. You have a certain culture that is adapted to here, obviously. So you were brought up in a certain culture, although you adapt there to the culture of, in Canada and everything, but it's still an adaptation. It's not a natural, fit, right? It could become, and it becomes after a while. Wherever you go, it becomes like a fit. But it comes much more naturally in an environment that, we were brought up in and were nurtured in.
for sure.
So
The
add to it
neighborhood,
family and
the
friends.
building, the family, the friends, the entourage, the community, all of
Exactly.
that. You can relate to it, you can understand it, and they understand you in a different way, of course, and you'll
Exactly.
feel the sense of belonging.
Exactly.
That's also something essential.
Mhm.
So thank you for also reminding us about these values that we long for. So talking a lot about VaultKey, it sounds like a game changer. Can you break down the product, the solution, the innovation behind it?
Right. So to make it, like a small story, a little story, the moment anyone wants to start, being part of this blockchain, let's call it revolution or disruption, one needs to start adapting to the idea of decentralization. as I said earlier, decentralization, being able to bypass any intermediary to make any transaction, being able to transact with the other by trusting a trustworthy, secure system, and being able to continue and perform exactly the same way. Now, with that kind of privilege, if I may say, comes a responsibility, which is being able to safeguard your access to that address, which we call a wallet, let's say, but that wallet of yours. Because let's say today you forget what is your bank account number. You can always call the bank or visit the bank, show some idea, some signature, they maybe know you. You just ask the question, they give you back access to your account, right? In the blockchain space, it doesn't happen this way. The system provides you with those 12 to 24 words that are unique to you, and nobody else
The
but
seed
you
phrase.
has access to that seed
Yeah.
phrase. Exactly. So
Okay.
if lost or stolen, you lose access permanently to your crypto assets, to your bitcoins, right? And a lot of people actually lost access and lost millions, hundreds of millions, like that. They were early on in the game of Bitcoin. They had accumulated a few thousands of those. And then after a while, they just lost access or lost their key to the wallet. So potentially, they're millionaires. Practically, they're left with nothing. So
In theory, they are millionaires.
exactly,
Technically speaking, they're not.
they're not. So
So
they're
I don't
there.
know if this is a solution, George, this is a new problem for the people. Because personally, I want something to be an ease of mind. I don't want something that is more problematic or a new worry that I should be concerned about.
True.
So did you take that into consideration as well?
Absolutely. And you're right in the sense that people are used to what they're used to. They're comfortable with what they know. And there is a system that was and is in some places that we're still giving them that, comfort. So why change? And that's understandable. But at the same time, everything comes at a cost. Something's gotta give, like we say, right? So if you don't want to go into decentralization and have the responsibility of owning your own assets, you're giving that custody to a third party. So taking,
So you're entrusting the bank or I don't know what entity
exactly,
or corporation with all your assets, your information,
exactly,
everything
exactly.
that
And
goes
we
in.
know, for example, what happened during the financial crisis with Lehman Brothers. Billions were lost, hundreds of billions were lost, right? So even the biggest names could eventually fail. So now the question is, would you rather trust a third party or actually have a system that allows you to hold your assets safely and being able to pass the baton or put a system of inheritance to the next generation easy, right? And with the system of the blockchain, Bitcoin, the crypto wallets, it is pretty secure. It is safe when taking the right measures, and this is what VaultKi is all about, right? So oftentimes
So what does Vaultkey do, George? In 2 words, what is the product?
So basically, it's starting secure and staying secure. So whenever you start your crypto wallet journey, you need to secure this seed phrase, those 12 to 24 words that are unique to you, right? And VaultKi allows you to just mitigate the risk of losing it. And it goes back to the most basic ways, yet the most efficient ones, which is engraving on stainless steel your seed phrase. And you do it, I don't do it, because if I engrave it, I know what's your key, and I can eventually access your wallet, which is like a breach of security, right? So
it comes with a toolkit.
It comes with a toolkit, with a toolkit, exactly. So everything is in the box that allows you to engrave on a design piece of stainless steel that has the design of a blockchain, which, for some, it could be like a
It's
nice.
really a sleek design. Yeah, I've seen one of those. It's really cool, and I like the aspect that it's unbranded. That's really nice because
Yeah,
if you can spot it anywhere, you know that this is a valuable thingy and there's a seed phrase in it, so you tend to steal it if
right.
someone ever crossed. So yeah,
Hmm.
I like this aspect. I really think that self-engraving is a very good measure. Can you tell us a bit about the security aspects?
Sure.
Any tips or how to store it? What's the best usage case?
Exactly. Yeah. So to start with, whenever you are engraving on stainless steel, you know that you are, protected from fire, from water, from hacking. It's not online. It's completely offline, and from corrosion and rust. So you know that this piece, this key, is going to be preserved for the long haul, for the long term, right? Now, the thing that we introduced with VaultKi as well, that does not exist anywhere else other than the branding, which is also like quite unique to VaultKi, is the fact that we push the client to split their seed phrase. So we give two pieces of VaultKi to two VaultKeys inside the box. And we encourage any user to just put half a key on one and the other half on the other. So you have two
Wow.
halves that need to be
Yeah.
used jointly to have access. So the moment you have two halves, you put them in two different locations. So you have a locked drawer at home and a safe at work, let's say, right? Or at another residence or whatever it is. So the moment anyone finds one piece and for some reason discovers that it's half a key, they don't have access to your wallet. Now, the question that I get often is that, what if it's stolen? You don't have access to it either because you only have half. And this is where, and to your point, and answering your question, the first tip I would say, other than splitting your seed phrase, is to have duplicates. So you have duplicates of halves, meaning that if one half is stolen, nobody has access to it, but you have access to the same half somewhere else, right? So this is where you go back, you take those two halves, you complete your seed phrase, you change wallets, you get a new key, and you start again, right? Because the first half was compromised, you don't want to deal with the same wallet anymore.
Wow. I feel like it's really we're in a movie, like in a Hollywood movie. First of all, like a Lord of the Rings, bring the you have to collect all the rings to put it in power, and then you're in on a mission quest to find the lost treasure.
Yeah, right.
You have different keys in different parts of the world, and you have to all join them to make it right. So I really like what you're saying. I find the solution really useful. Remind me that I have to get the product. I believe also because I'm still a novice into crypto and Web3, but it is useful.
We'll have a chat anytime.
We have to. So, George, what lessons from your finance days are you bringing into this crypto venture?
Interesting question. So I can tell you that first, I was able through the, by going into the blockchain and Bitcoin specifically, I'm a big adept of Bitcoin specifically. I was able to better understand what is money. And the moment you do so, it's a kind of revelation. You just really understand everything that happens around the world, what happens with inflation, and eventually how to protect yourself from this, from what's happening that is out of your control. You're not inducing that aspect, but you are a victim, if I may say, or like you are the receiver. You're a victim of it, right? So how to actually deal with it? Now, obviously, In the finance world, the first rule is diversification. So definitely diversify all the risks you can diversify away. Bitcoin for me is definitely a main diversifier in the portfolio. Without going into like the financial terms and the portfolio construction terms, the fact that it is not really connected, or how we say correlated directly with other securities, so stocks, bonds, etc. It has a special place in a portfolio, right?
But it is affected. The whole crypto market is affected by world news and mainstream
Of
media
course,
and stock market
of
ventures
course,
and everything.
of course. As is the
And
price of
even
crude,
th- and
price of
even
rent.
the governments and big institutions are now holding large amounts of crypto, and
Exactly.
that put us at more risk, no?
At
So
more
it
risk
is
when
manipulated
holding.
by the big guys.
When I'm talking specifically about crypto and like this place in a portfolio, I'm mostly talking about Bitcoin. Bitcoin has a very special place, in a portfolio. The others are more, I would say, a bet in a startup. It's similar to a bet in a startup. Bitcoin is the best form of money, the hardest form of money. The other cryptos are each has a utility, and
Mhm.
every single project, because there is a project behind each coin or each crypto.
Not all of
Uh,
them. There's a lot of meme coins and
a
bullshit
lot of
stuff
meme
going
coins as
on.
well. So they all hope to become the next thing, the next,
The next Bitcoin.
the next. If you want to, if you want to make the parallel, yes, the next Bitcoin. Considering that Bitcoin today has more than 50% of the market cap, like the market dominance, it constitutes more than 50% of the whole market cap of the industry, right? Considering that you have tens of thousands of cryptocurrencies on one hand that constitute less than 50% of the market, and Bitcoin more than 50%. And it says a lot about Bitcoin, right? So does it add more risk? I don't think so. It is affected, yes, of course. Like risk factors, like Bitcoin does not live in a vacuum, right? Of course, there is fear, there is greed, there are like certain, risk factors, as we say, that will eventually affect, uh, uh, you know, Bitcoin or other cryptocurrencies. But looking at those kind of volatile for today securities or like investment vehicles, you should more look at them on the long term rather than the short term, right? Because there is something, there's one thing that someone called Michael Saylor said that is a pretty prominent figure in the field. He did an analogy with real estate, right? Like we all like real estate. We all know that real estate eventually gain in value, it beats inflation and all that explanation. But he said something that's pretty interesting, which is the more demand there is on real estate, the more real estate will be constructed, like buildings will be constructed, will be built, right? With Bitcoin, it's not the case. The more demand there is a Bitcoin, there won't be more supply because the supply of Bitcoin is fixed at 21 million ever. There won't be 21 million and one Bitcoin ever. So the moment you realize that it's a deflationary asset, you understand that you're holding it for the long term. It's not anymore something that you're just buying and selling and just trying to make a quick buck from. And linking it to VaultKi, this is where VaultKi comes in quite handy, right? You want to be able to hold access to your wallet and to your Bitcoins for the long haul, for the long term. And you need to protect that access. You don't want to eventually buy one Bitcoin today and find that in a couple of years or maybe in 15 years, I don't know, it's worth $1 million and you lost access to your wallet. It would be quite frustrating, right? So
It can be, yeah. And like you
yeah,
said, a lot of people have already faced that. George, I really like how passionate you are about cryptocurrencies and Web3. And it's really rare to see it coming from a finance person and a traditional finance person, if we can say. How did you do this switch? And it is rare, right?
I mean, now more and more people are embracing.
Sorry, because regular or traditional finance people are all for stocks and bonds, and they
Absolutely.
shit on cryptocurrencies.
You are right. Absolutely. Absolutely. It goes back also to the adoption curve. Like it's a bell curve, if I may say. Like there you have the early adopters that are very few. They're not too many, the early adopters. But the late adopters come in whenever they feel that they missed the boat, and when the proof of work and proof of concept of that new thing has been provided, has been done, right? So whenever you're succeeding in a certain space and you're just comfortable with the knowledge that you have, you don't want things to change. Like why change a winning formula, right? So you find everything that is wrong in this new innovation, right? In this disruptive, innovative thing, right? Until it becomes inevitable and you see that you have to adopt it and accept it. Now, to your point, maybe like having this drive to embrace it a little bit earlier than others is what makes a difference. And this is where I am today. But I believe that eventually everybody's gonna, adopt it. Like even the CEO of BlackRock,
Hmm.
he even admitted recently on an interview, I think on CNBC, and he
He
was
did.
saying that I was against Bitcoin for so long. Then I educated myself, and then now I realize that I'm wrong. And today they're just offering exchange traded funds, ETFs that you know uh, are Bitcoin based, right? Or Bitcoin ETFs. So it's a big shift in a few years, right? And I
The
think
whole
that
world is
it just
shifting,
starts.
and even like uh, World Bank, not the World Bank, but how do you call them? The major
Central banks,
central banks
yeah,
around the world, they're shifting into digitalized monetary systems.
exactly,
And
exactly, yeah. And but if I may say, the CBDCs, central bank digital currencies, are a very different beast than, for example, Bitcoin, right? I don't know if you want to go to the details of those, but like one is still centralized, and the other, Bitcoin, is completely decentralized,
one is
right?
centralized but digital, purely
But digital,
digital, and one is decentralized and digital as well.
exactly, exactly. So it's a different beast.
It is a different beast, and they're trying to, my personal opinion, they're trying to shift the attention of the people from the main thing happening, and they want you to enjoy the new hot stuff coming in to
Right.
the market. And yeah, do you feel like, I don't know, is there a financial crisis coming in?
I've been, if you want, between quotation, predicting financial crisis for a couple of years now. I was obviously wrong. I'm not very comfortable with what's happened. I don't see how the world can continue after having printed so much money out of thin air to just say, you know what, we didn't go into a recession, not even a soft landing. It was pretty smooth. Yes, we went into some inflation. The people got hurt because, obviously, like, the money they accumulated, their wealth is worth less now. But you know what? Everything is going to continue smoothly and normal. I don't think
What's
that's going to
next?
happen. I think that's next is very much what we lived in Lebanon.
Oof,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. Like at different levels, different, like, severity levels. But I think that Lebanon is not, and I hope I'm wrong, but my view of things is that we are not now backwards. We're not 15 years or 20 years back. We're like 5 years ahead in the collapse, right?
Oof, okay.
Because like the practices that we were having in the country here are being done abroad as well. So
I believe it started, George, and I don't know if it's right or wrong, but yesterday I got some news about some commercial banks in China that started collapsing.
Yeah. And the thing is,
It's
governments will tell you.
scary. It is a scary era to live in,
It is.
or it's an exciting one.
Well, you can see it both ways, depending on how you prepare for it, right? And this is where I go back to the, the Bitcoin offering and the decentralized wallet and Vaultkey offer, which is
And
that you prepare
VaultKi.
yourself. Exactly.
Exactly.
Prepare yourself for it. Go decentralized, own your keys, protect it properly with Vaultkey, and put some Bitcoins aside. If something happens to the banking system, then you have your safety net. And
Is
it's in
this
your
how
hands.
you're
You can travel
marketing
with it
VaultKi?
anytime. Sorry?
Is this how you're marketing VaultKi? That's the type of messaging you guys are putting out there?
It is one of the types of messaging we're putting out there for sure. And to your point, there are like two, if you want, or three pillars, if I may say. There is the product part, there is the educational part, because like it takes some time to just accept a decentralization or a decentralized world. We're used
Yeah.
to what exists. And the last part is the advisory part. So put all these under the umbrella of VaultKi, and I think you have a pretty solid formula.
Are you mostly focused on B2B or B2C?
So for the product, to push the product itself, it's both, right? Because B2B eventually is an easier way to just access clients that you don't have a direct contact with. But the B2C remains
And
also
going into some projects, some type of crypto wallets,
exactly,
doing some joint efforts on some projects and all of these. Yeah.
exactly, exactly. You do some kind of partnerships, and you vet the product of the partner, and the moment there is a kind of mutual interest, and both are interested in the other's product, then you have a winning formula. You start like promoting each other's solutions that eventually are complementary, right? So it's a win-win for everyone and for the user.
I
And
believe you do have a winning formula at Vault, George. And
thank you.
what's next for you guys?
So next is doubling down on the educational part that will lead us to the advisory aspect of it. Now the advisory part is more like how do you say, ad hoc. Now the education part is being built not only through for example communication or writing articles and stuff like these, but also by building courses, by building reaching out to universities, to schools, etc., to actually build a kind of awareness around the technology and the security that allows you to actually navigate this technology smoothly. So the moment this awareness will be, in motion, this is where the advisory part will be needed even more. So this is where I go
Yeah.
back to the three pillars: the product, the education, and the advisory part.
I love it. I believe you're on the right track, and I like that you guys have a clear path and strategy in motion, and you're following it. I know that, especially countries like Lebanon, that already have lived a harsh financial crisis, have to raise its adoption to Web3, crypto, and alternatives. And
Absolutely.
it happened already. I believe you're on the right track. And I hope to see VaultKi anywhere and everywhere in the world. Before we conclude our episode, would you like to share any advice with the upcoming entrepreneurs that are listening to you?
Sure. I mean, I think that it's never like the main thing is that it's never too late to start, right? Like we oftentimes try to emulate or we look up to those very young people who started, from the you say like from their parents' house, and then eventually made it,
Yeah.
to $1
At
billion
age 16,
unicorn.
back in the garage.
Exactly. I think that we will never feel ready to start, but if there is this motivation, there is this drive, just start. Because people eventually regret what they didn't do mostly, and not what they did and maybe failed at, right? So just start, and eventually it's a pure enjoyment and pure growth. So yeah, that's basically what you're starting from experience, right? If you're starting at a later age, so just start, and eventually try to find your way, along the road.
Will the pieces fall in its place?
Sometimes they will, sometimes they won't, but as long as you don't give up, eventually they will, right?
Amazing.
Now the beauty is also
I
to know
love
when
that.
to pull the plug, and sometimes you have to consider that option. It's not about being stubborn, it's about being to have a grit, to have a determination. And whenever you feel that it's time to pull the plug for any reason, then it's fine to do so. There's always a next time.
Thank you for that, George. It was really
Thank
a
you.
pleasure. Thank you for sharing all these information and talks about your journey. I really enjoyed them. I hope that everyone will as well. We stay in touch, and I
Thanks for
wish you
having
well.
me, Carl.
Good luck. Bye
For
bye.
sure.